everybody. I am your Uncle G. This is rVoice powered by rLoop, and we have another podcast for you today. The gentleman that we'll be interviewing today is a very interesting cat by the name of Amir Morris. Has been with rLoop for quite some time, and let's see what he's got to say. All right, Amir, can you hear me?
Here we are. Zoom always starts off with the microphone on mute.
It's, dude, man, you talk about a rough time today, and I've had this problem over and over. Maybe I shouldn't be using Zoom. Maybe there's another platform that might work out better. I'm not sure. So how are you, man?
I'm good. It's the end of the day here in Bristol, and it's weird weather, and but I'm going really well.
Now you're in Bristol. You're in the UK,
right?
And how long have you been in Bristol?
I've been in Bristol since about the end of April, officially.
Okay.
Well, actually, in practice, I've been in Bristol officially since about March, but most of that was really spent in Cambridge. It's weird.
Okay.
But yeah, I moved across from Finland, spent a whole lot of time in Cambridge, and then moved to Bristol, where I'm working once again in a range of things, including aerospace.
Okay, I understand. And so you went from Finland. Now, checking your bio, you are originally Australian, right? Hey, mate.
Right.
Hey, mate. There you go.
With this accent.
Yeah. So how does an Aussie end up in Finland? Good question. Story. Thank you. I asked the hard ones here, buddy.
Yep. I was in a relationship, and my then wife was basically offered a position at Aalto University. And I had always said, if you ever get offered a position that looks like it's tenure track, anywhere within reason, we'll go. And so we ended up in Finland. She ended up doing that. I ended up having interviews with Nokia, and then it fell apart. She got the job in Finland. It wasn't the job that she was led to believe it was going to be, and she ended up, after a reasonably short amount of time, as a professor of innovation in China, which is a long story in and of itself.
Yeah. That's incidentally on the other side of the world. So,
right.
Yeah.
And I ended up in Finland. I had been interviewed both before I left Australia and in Finland, and I was looking forward to start working in human factors engineering or ergonomics. And then Nokia was sold to Microsoft.
Those bastards. They did it again.
Yep.
They did it again. How do you spell Microsoft again? With what?
with dollar signs instead of S's.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Going back a long time. So yeah, I then had to look around for other work. There was basically a freeze put on new people being employed at Microsoft, Nokia / Microsoft. There were people being employed within Microsoft itself, but that was literally a different company. And I ended up working in neuroplasticity for a while.
Okay, let me see if I can figure that out, because remember the motto of this podcast. This is where high tech, that'd be you, meets train wreck. I guess that would be me, because you see how long it took for me just to get my Zoom call up. I am technically illiterate. So you said, say it again. It was
neuroplasticity.
Okay. Oh, that's robotics. Is that making a plastic move or?
No. It's the human brain. So I was doing research into how the human brain works, how memory works, how thinking works, and also the commercialization of that.
Oh yeah, of course we want to sell that to Microsoft as soon as we get the answers, right?
Well, for example, one of Elon Musk's companies, and he's got a fair few, but one of them,
one right down the street, matter of fact, yeah,
is all about brain implants in terms of controls. So many years ago, I started off in immunology and medicine, but I basically did a small detour and ended up in occupational preventive medicine, and a lot of work on human factors, both cognitive and also physical. And so I've done some research historically in things like, how do you use the power of thought to fly a plane?
Okay.
And there's a whole lot of what I'm going to call
theory, maybe. I don't know.
Well, no, I was going to say bullshit.
Yeah, that's a better word. There you go.
There's a whole lot of bullshit about different ways of doing this, but there are, and since about the 70s, there's been some pretty reasonable ways to do it in reality, in terms of identifying what the brain is actually doing and how. And to put it into perspective, when I was an undergrad student and I was learning these sorts of things, we were taught about brain functions in particular ways. And I'm not saying all of it is now believed to be crap, but a lot of it is. And we now use things like functional MRIs and positron emission tomography scanners to work out what's actually happening in the brain as people think and as people react. And we've got new ways of doing, or reasonably new ways of doing it. They're in practice about 40 years old. And they're totally different from all the things that we used to talk about in this area. And so a lot of what we used to talk about has as much scientific relevance. And remember that I talk about science in all of this.
Right.
So it has as much scientific
relevance
the scapegoat, as phrenology did. Okay, so when they used to take readings of bumps on the skull, and then they used to do they used to come up with conclusions about criminality, etc. And that wasn't true, and all sorts of other things weren't true. But we're beginning to get somewhere with real science now. And over the last 20 years, we've basically come so far. And I was working a good 10 years ago in that area.
But Amir, wouldn't you say that a lot of the bullshit, the crap, the quackery, and there was a bunch of, especially in the medical field. It still is. Yeah, still is. But isn't it all of that insane crap that is allowing us to move forward? Yeah, it's the perfect example of hey, do this. If you do this wrong, don't do this again, and move on. And woodpeckers really don't help you, if you let them peck you in the ear, to take care of a fever or whatever the case it was back then,
Well, that's part of it. But like once upon a time, we learned about the human brain by things like we would look at people who had an accident. And so if you go to Harvard Uni, there's in the anatomy museum over there, I think it is, you'll find the remains of a skull that had basically a railway iron comes through, and
through his head.
Individual through his head.
Are we talking about a spike or the actual rail?
An actual rail. Yep.
There's not a lot of room left.
Nope. But what happened was the guy didn't have a full life, I have to admit. Mm-hmm. Okay, but he lived on for a good amount of time post the accident, and they looked at his behaviors before and after, and they knew which areas had been damaged, mm-hmm. and they came to conclusions of what that part of the brain did.
Okay.
And the other way that we've learned about things classically, as opposed to the more modern ways, is by they'll notice somebody who has a particular disease or deficit, and then they'll do an autopsy post fact, mm-hmm. and they'll look to see damage in a part of the brain, and they draw conclusions. And what we now do is we can draw conclusions by giving living, breathing, normal people a task. And in some cases, we give them a drink of radioactive lemonade. The carbon in the
drink
glucose
of choice.
Exactly. But the carbon in the glucose has been replaced with a radioactive form of carbon. Mm-hmm. And we can see the uptake of the glucose. We can see what parts of the brain are turning on and how. And we see that as they're doing things like playing a musical instrument or reciting poetry or writing and so we're getting a much more effective way of understanding what's really going on. And that's now, as I say, we've been doing that for about 40 years now. Right. It started really in the 80s. But yeah, so we've come a long way, and we're using functional MRIs in the same sort of way. And we're actually understanding things without killing people, without destroying people, mm-hmm. and we're learning at a tremendous speed. So I went to Finland. I started in that area, and then I made a detour, and I worked in basically computer vision and machine learning. Okay. I worked in, I did a whole lot of consulting things. I did some work associated with the startup movement. And so I worked for a while with an organization called Founder Institute, which came out of Silicon Valley, but is around the world. I was a director in Finland for that. And I did some work in regard to electronic recycling, and trying to make electronic recycling greener and better as well.
Okay. Well, that's a wide range. It sounds like a lot of your core was with the medical field, and correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it was originally, but in Australia, I worked for a good amount of time, both within academia and within industry, in regard to human factors engineering, system safety engineering, aerospace engineering. So, and to me, there aren't strict lines of demarcation. So what I'm interested in is taking a solution from one area and applying it to another.
Where it does apply, where it fits. And if it doesn't, then you modify accordingly, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, sorry about that. It means that I can start talking about things like, how do you start working on COVID on one hand, or how do you work on the future of flight on the other, or how do you work on the future of green energy on the other? And I see myself really as a multidisciplinary system scientist.
So you think that a lot of your background can bridge into some of these other areas where it can fit, and give a perspective that maybe other people can't give because of the experience that you have. I worked in aviation
Right.
for a good portion of my life, working on aircraft, and I found that to be rewarding, but very, very, very structured, especially if you're doing it with the military. You know, I mean, you don't do nothing without that book sitting right there. This is the Bible. This is the gospel. We don't deviate. But then the best mechanics that I had in every squadron I ever been assigned to were the guys that like, yeah, I've done this job a million times. Let me tell you something. Don't do that, you know, and you just go right there and you do this like that, bam, 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 you know, but because
like
of bureaucracy, he could never get his looked at serious enough to be a technical directive to change it, you know.
I was going to say the mythology in the military is always, if you're a low level officer, listen to your sergeant.
Yeah, well, yeah, as you should, as you should, or in my case, your chief. Damn it, you know.
Okay,
and,
well,
hey, and
okay,
Lieutenant, yeah, give me a cup of coffee while you're out there. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, we're talking Navy versus other service, but you know exactly what I mean.
Oh yeah, mate. And I must say, I had some of the best times, man. Hanging out with my Aussie brothers, man, because they enjoy a good pint of beer just like we do. So that's always a great thing. So, hey, you know, I know you, but I don't know you because I guess I'm a voyeur. I spend a lot of time on Slack, popping into different meetings. I have pretty much, you know, I have pretty much full access, I guess, you know, popping into meetings and just getting a feel who's there, what's going on. I missed the heydays prior to COVID,
Right.
you know, and hopefully, you know, with venues like this and just, you know, taking advantage of whatever projects are out there, hopefully we'll get back to that ramp up, you know. But you've been around a minute, haven't you?
I've been around, about 5 years or so. Okay. I actually applied to get involved with rLoop, and I didn't hear back for a while, and then all of a sudden it opened up, and when it opened up, then I jumped in both feet first, and I became involved with HPod. Which was the successor to the rLoop actual Hyperpod.
Yeah.
Hyperloop pod. I became involved with rFlight, and in a major way. I became involved with rFactory as it was, and I also became involved in the early days of Glitch. I became involved in a whole lot of other things behind the scenes, some of which have gone on and some of which haven't. So I gave some support in regards to the boring machine,
right?
And that competition, but I wasn't really a part of it. It was me giving support to people and trying to do things, and also a couple of potential spin-offs I gave support to as well. So for a period of time, literally everything that was going on around the place, I was active in.
Yeah. I see you all over the place.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I have a philosophy, and I've had it for a very long time. I get involved in something and get super involved. I give my all to it. And then after approximately 3 to 5 years, I say, hey, my role now is to become a rank and file member. I want to, I still believe in it. I still want to give my support, but my role isn't to run the thing or to, okay. And so I'm still very interested in concepts like the democratization of work and the future of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think organizations like rLoop have a lot to play and to participate in that moving forward. But yeah, these days I've gone from probably spending an average of about 30 hours a week doing rLoop things one way or the other, to probably spending about 5 hours a week monitoring things and giving advice in certain cases, but more voyeuristic than anything else.
Aha, you're another voyeur out there.
Well,
peep in, yeah.
Yeah, well, the aim is, as I said, to support people, to mentor people, not to, and it was never about my name up in lights, etc. It was never about that sort of thing. It was always about go in, do a whole lot of work, contribute in any way that I can, and that varied tremendously from engineering stuff to admin stuff to whatever was needed, and then take a step back, be there if I'm needed, and happy to contribute when I'm needed, but I don't think I'm needed all the time in the same way.
Right, I understand fully. Do you think COVID helped or hurt when it comes to decentralization?
Oh God.
Wait a minute, was that a good question? Because
I was about to say that is a fantastic question.
Thank you. And I wrote it down on something somewhere. Wait a minute, I got to see where. Well, yeah, maybe on the back of something. Get that shit out of here. Go ahead.
I was actually rLoop isn't the only group that I've been involved with and tried to support, etc. There is another group that I'm involved with called Earthlings. And it's all also about the future of work in various ways. It's just starting up. But I was talking about some of these things the other day with a couple of people from Earthlings. And what I was really what my feeling is that in different parts of the world, this has worked differently. So if you looked at a US-centric view, you're going to have a very different answer to this sort of question than if you looked at a Europe-centric view or an India-centric view, etc. And I think that what you'll find is that the concept of hybrid working is here to stay to a certain degree, but that's got advantages and disadvantages. So for most people who are starting out in the workplace, I'm not sure I'm not sure remote working is always a fantastic advantage. Because there is a socialization and an informal mentoring and a skills transition that often goes along. And like in March this year, I started working for a new company, in England. And well, it's an international organization. But one of the funny things is that the most I've actually ever spent in the office is probably about 2 days a week. And for me, that's okay, because I'm quite happy doing all sorts of things remotely. But I thought about it and I thought, well, if this was a brand new company and a brand new job and I had never worked in that area before and I was a recent graduate from university, I'm not sure I'd be as happy.
Right. Or have as much clarity maybe on exactly what my role is. I get that anyway, by the way. I regularly turn around to people and say, exactly what am I meant to do here for various reasons. And often it's because
somebody, in this case, often it's the client, whatever that means, hasn't actually very clearly specified what the job really is or what the subsections of the job really are. And so what I go in and do is I break it down as a systems engineer. So, and I try and define its tasks and its roles and those of other people, and work out in a foggy or fuzzy or complex situation how the bits fit together. And it's not like what I'm going to call standard hard engineering, which you gave the classic example of. Now, if you're involved in maintaining a wing of aircraft, okay, be it civil or military, then the first thing you do is you notice the tail number, and you notice the photo book, and you notice the manuals associated with it from piloting right through to maintaining.
Right.
Okay. And you have in some cases LRUs or equivalent, line replaceable units. Something looks wrong, you take out something, you put in the new one. Okay. You get that working, and then you have time to come back and say, well, do I repair or do I chuck or whatever with the one that you've taken out? Okay. And it's going to be different depending upon the circumstances.
We're even more centralized. It's like, okay, not working right because the book says it's not working right, outside the tolerance, take it out. And after you take it out, you don't see it again because there's somebody over here that their only job is to fix that piece. They don't know the aircraft from a kite, but they know how to fix the piece, and then it goes back in the system, stuff like that. So just indulge me for a second. I've got two daughters. Right. I'm an old fart, but they're just turned 17.
I think we're about the same age,
Well, we better work fast. And anyway, but my daughters are 17 and 18 years old, which for an old fart like me, that's I could be their grandfather. Yeah. So I see how society goes today. People living in their phone. People meeting people through these websites. And, we drove to Vegas, 2 weeks ago, and they didn't say two words in the whole trip. They were just sitting there in their phones doing that stuff. I don't encourage that. So I try to tell them, hey, put that crap down. But I see it everywhere around me. Everywhere. It has become a norm. And what is missing now is socialization amongst their generation. How in the world can you go remote and decentralize with people that are not socialized? Because I could see remote working. Dude, if I can get a job right now and I could sit here in my skivvy shorts, just with this being my world, that little screen right there, they don't see the beer over here. They don't see my joint over here. They don't see the fact that I am actually wearing women lace, but I am happy as hell, and I am productive, and I am doing everything, and everything is fine. But I also have social skills. So at some point, you're going to have to deal with people. Now, as a person that has a background working with the brain and understanding the brain, how in the hell are they going to be able to move on? Because I believe remote is going to be around for longer. I believe in decentralization. That's why one of the reasons I'm a member of rLoop anyway. But it scares me because I see our next generation lacking a key ingredient in order to go remote. I think that you still need to be able to do this. What's your thoughts on that?
there are two ways that I'm thinking of that very question. Okay, the first thing that I have to say is what we're doing right now is a discussion. And the whole thing about discussions is it's not a monologue. It's not even a sequential monologue. It's a dialogue.
Yes.
And in the future of work scenarios that I've been involved with, it's always about dialogue. So I've got meetings tomorrow, okay? And the meetings tomorrow are actually about so that I can ask some open-ended questions of people from a whole range of backgrounds, and they can start giving their opinion, which is the input I need to move forward. It's not about technology, although I'm there doing a whole lot of stuff in a very high-tech environment. It's about fitting technology to people, okay? And the people comes first. You design everything around the people. Now, one of my roles in rLoop was I was the person who led the human systems integration area. I'm a human factors engineer. And what that means is I have spent my whole life within the engineering designing for people, be it officially or unofficially. So
would people be in the focus of whatever the engineer job is, or whatever you're trying to achieve?
Well, so the way that I describe it is, there was a book that I used to, well, I had it as a student, and then I used to use it when I was lecturing at university. When I first came across it, it was called Poet, The Psychology of Everyday Things. And later on, it changed its name slightly, but if you go looking for Poet, you'll find it. And there was this wonderful picture of a nuclear power plant control room that had two nearly identical controls side by side, but one was a gross control and one was a fine control. And what the operators did was they used beer keg handles and they talked about the different beer types in terms of training people to operate the controls.
Okay.
Okay. It was modification on the fly, but the beer types were something that made sense to them and had different look and feel.
Right.
And
exactly.
that's what so the whole thing is, you need to know what you want to achieve at the end of the day, but you also need to know about the people who are going to be doing the work and what they need to take in, what they need to interact with, what their mental processing power is, what the actual challenges to that utilization of mental processing power are. So, for example, today, as opposed to in the 90s when mobile phones really first came in, we understand that if you're driving even and you've got a hands-free phone, you use a significant mental workload just talking on the phone, even though you're not holding it.
Do you think it's equal to what you would have to do if you were physically holding it? Because of course, that requires something.
Look, the physical holding is actually a side issue, and it will increase it, but it's not the big thing. I think the bigger question is, do you use more mental processing power if you're talking on the phone, or if you've got somebody in the passenger seat beside you?
There you go.
and I actually think that you actually often end up using more mental processing power with the person on the phone, because the person who's sitting beside you understands the environment in which you're in. And so, yeah, if, for example, there was a traffic jam or the start of an accident, etc., you would expect that person to moderate their behavior and their conversation with you, specifically because they've got some of the same cues that you do.
Right.
And those things are important.
Yeah. And then we could also factor in the fact that they are in your physical presence, and part of communication is also body language. So how I speak to them, how they react to what I have to say, makes it easier to flow. Yeah, exactly. So I can see that.
Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is, one of the things that I'm a member of is LinkedIn communities. Okay. And one of the things that's happening within LinkedIn is significant discussions about soft skills. It's not just there, it's happening in all sorts of places, but soft skill discussions get back to the question that we really started discussing here. And I would argue, and I have argued historically, that you're going to get so far being able to do your job, having what I'll call the technical skills to do it. But you're going to get further by having the soft skills to be able to relate to people, to interact, to find out the unasked questions. Okay. And so I know that historically I've spent time on it, and I've spent time with my son, that if you're going to succeed, you have to be able to listen, you have to be able to talk, you have to be able to interact and dig down, drill down to find out, are the people that you're talking with understanding what you're saying? Are you understanding what they're saying? They're social skills, and they exist independently of technical skills. They exist, the technology might change the way they present, but be very careful. When I was teaching ergonomics, I used to, or human factors engineering, I used to take a step to the side and I used to say, there is so much that we do that is informed in social and cultural norms of societies that we live in. And I made the point that in most Western societies, the color red is danger, stop, etc. In China and Vietnam, it's the sign of happiness and celebration. Red is the color of wedding dresses. There's a movie called Raise the Red Lantern. Okay, it's not universal,
right?
And you have to work with the people that you're working with in terms of the way they understand the world. And sometimes it means you modify your understanding of the world to fit in with them. And sometimes you meet in the middle, but it's all about communication, and it's not about unilaterally being right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, though. You know, it's communication is the secret to all of it. Otherwise, you'll never move forward. So, at all. You know, you lived in a small town.
Yep.
That was near a skiing route, or a cross-country skiing route. What is that?
Well, literally 50 meters from my front door, in a place called Paimio, was a major cross-country road. So it was like, it was a dirt track in summer, but yeah, 2/3 of the year it had snow and ice on it.
Right.
And you could use cross-country skis to go skiing on it.
Right.
And that was actually closer than any road, etc. But the thing is that when that wasn't being used for cross-country skiing, it's being used for orienteering.
For what?
Orienteering. Orienteering is a sport where you used to use a map and the compass, and you would have to go around and you'd have to punch. Go to basically checkpoints. It's like rally driving on foot.
On foot. So, or I take it orienteering is orientation or to know where you are to.
Well, originally the word to orient, okay, meant to face east, because early maps faced east instead of north. Yep. So orienteering is a sport. You can look it up.
Yeah, no doubt.
The major compass used for this purpose is from a company called Silva, Silva, which is a Finnish company. And they've gone on to do smart watches and GPS and things like that.
Really?
But they started with I first came across the compasses. They may have done things before. It's like companies like Nokia started with wood and then went into rubber and then made gumboots or and then went into cable and then telephone switchboards and
then eventually
eventually digital telephones. Yeah. And they constantly reinvent themselves, these sorts of companies.
Have you ever went orientating?
I've been orienteering. I first went orienteering as a kid.
As a kid?
Yep. And my school in Australia used to do it amongst things like cross country, etc. But yeah, so I've done it quite a few times, but it was just weird to be in a place where it came from.
Oh, the center of oriented. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So, now, is that much different than a walkabout?
Yeah. Well, you're running.
Oh, really?
As a race. So, yeah.
It's a race, and you got to meet certain checkpoints.
Yep. And remember that Finland is a place that also is highly competitive with rally driving.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. All sorts of top rally drivers come from Finland, so this is how they train them young.
Oh yeah,
they get into a car.
Yeah, you're not old enough to drive, but look, go through there. Here's your compass, and it's speed. Now, what about when it iced over? Did you ever do any cross country skiing?
I've done cross country skiing, but not there.
Well, hell, you had a track right in front of your house. Why not?
Yeah, I know, because I didn't have skis.
Well, that kind of sucks. It's like, look, man, it's full of snow here. I don't have skis. Not to mention, it's a bitch to go to the market without skis, right? I mean,
well, actually, in Finland, the bikes have studded bike tires.
Oh, okay. So you got spikes, so you just
but like one of the funny things is, I grew up in Melbourne, where it's significantly hotter than most places around the world,
right?
In terms of Europe and etc. And people are complaining about heat waves, etc. And I don't find this hot.
No, yeah, you're used to it because Melbourne is pretty close to the equator, also. So,
well, actually, no, it's not. It's at the south of Australia, but
Melbourne is at the south. Yeah, it's not up there. That's true.
But it regularly gets into 40s. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, look, man. Before they kick us off, we've really been pressing our luck. And just so the folks watching to know, we've had a hell of a time the last half an hour where we talked for about 2 minutes and he'll kick us off. We'll fix a lot of it in post, but if we don't, oh well. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed being on rVoice, powered by rLoop. And let's get the word out. And if you got any other loopers or just anybody that'd like to give a chat, man, please send them our way. We'd be more than glad to talk. and you, sir, get another invite whenever you feel like it and you want to talk about something of interest, even if it's not of interest, just give us a hit and we'll do it again.
Okay.
How
Sounds
about
good.
that, huh? All right, Amir. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta ask. Jesus, see, I almost messed up. Dude.
Ask you.
You're a rabbi?
Yeah.
Check that.
Yeah.
How can you be a rabbi with a name like Amir?
Because Amir first appears in the Bible.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, It's all the same region,
Well,
same people.
and what it means in Hebrew is the very top branches of a tree.
Oh, but in Arabic, it's
a prince.
A prince,
right? But it's the same. It's the same. Conceptually, it's the same sort of root. Okay, so the Hebrew word is significantly older.
Yeah.
Okay, but because Classic Arabic has only been around since basically around the time that the Quran was written,
which is a thousand years or so after
1,300 or 1,400. Yeah, that ballpark.
Right.
But so this goes back probably about 3,000 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, debatable exactly when, but yeah, about 3,000. And my father's name was Ilan, which means an oak tree. So I'm Amir. The very top branches of a tree is the son of an oak tree.
Yeah. Now his dad's name didn't mean root or anything like that, did it?
Nah, I used to threaten my son that I'd name him Leaf.
Yeah, Leaf, that'll work. Or pit or something like that, a fruit, whatever. Yep. All right, man. Hey, look, this was great. I enjoyed it, man. I'm gonna have to say goodbye. We're gonna go ahead, pop out of here, and hope to hear from you again, man, and see you again, and keep involved. Let's try to get folks out there doing stuff with rLoop, and we'll try to do the same thing on our end, And incidentally, we're on YouTube. This will be on YouTube next week. We're also on Spotify, and if you happen to have Spotify, I invite you to go to my Spotify page, which is Vet in Vet, 7 characters, right. VET and VET. If I had my choice, I would be doing a radio station because I love music that much, KGLH 102.3, Compton on your stereo listening. But we're not allowed to use music, copyright stuff. But if you go on there, just go ahead and follow me on there and listen to some of my jams, man, if you like,
Okay. And one of the things I'll talk with you next time is I used to do a whole lot of work on a community radio station called 3CR.
Is that right? Where was that at?
That was in Melbourne, Australia.
Really? Is the radio station still around?
It was. I haven't lived in Melbourne, Australia for a very long time now.
That's all right. For the hell of it, we ought to call it. We both go on and we'll call it and see if we can get a DJ on the line, and talk to him in between. What type of radio station was it?
It was community radio. So it was one of the first community radio stations. Okay.
Okay.
And I was involved in the 1980s.
Really?
Yeah.
You actually put in mic time?
I did mic time. I did station duty person time. So I ran the place as manager after hours and things like that.
Really?
And I also did a whole lot of technical support work for them.
Oh, yeah. Just all the way around, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't say no more. We'll talk about that next time then, huh?
Okay.
Amir Morris, absolute pleasure. All of you loopers out there, this is Uncle G, and I'm signing out and saying good night. Thank you very much, brother. Toodle pips.